Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all natural, dry-aged, USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king ball, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call to find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on all of our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets. Thanks for joining us there, as well as Hotel TV. Same, all over the country, yet some are selective markets and some aren't. But literally 500,000 rooms in upscale resorts and hotels. Boy, that's good stuff. Also, everybody watching on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Thanks for joining us there as well. Chicago Food Favorites, talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right, and our friends over at Vacation Buddies are giving away a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer to a simple trivia question. And here's the question. If you know the answer, call the number I give you right afterwards. Which of these cities is home to the tallest building in America? Is it A, New York, B, Chicago, or C, Los Angeles? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri, if you know the answer to that very simple trivia question. And if so, call 888-576-5777. Call now. You know, over time, competition has had different levels. Whether it's amateur, whether it's pro, whether it's a smattering of pro and amateur, going all the way back to, the Olympic Games back in 776 BC. Imagine that. Way, way back in the day. This is the first recorded Olympic Games. They were held at Olympia in the Greek city-state of Elis. It's generally accepted that the Olympics were at least 500 years old at that time. That's crazy. So the ancient Olympics, held every 4 years, occurred during a religious festival honoring the Greek god Zeus. In the 8th century BC, contestants came from a dozen or more Greek cities, and by the 5th century BC, from as many as 100 cities from throughout the Greek Empire. Now, initially, Olympic competition was limited to foot races, but later a number of other events were added, including wrestling and boxing and horse and chariot racing, military competitions as well. And the pentathlon was introduced way back in 708 BC. And of course, it consisted of a foot race, a long jump, a discus, javelin throws, and wrestling. With the rise of Rome, the Olympics declined, and in 393 AD, the Roman Emperor Theodosius I a Christian, abolished the games as part of his efforts to suppress paganism in the Roman Empire. Now, if you don't know what that is, folks, listen, that's a whole nother discussion. Nonetheless, with the Renaissance, Europe began a long fascination with ancient Greek culture, and in the 18th and 19th centuries, some of the nations staged informal sporting and folkloric festivals bearing the name Olympic Games. However, it was not until 1892 that a young French baron, Pierre de Coubertin, seriously proposed reviving the Olympics as a major international competition that would occur every 4 years. So I guess he would be the modern day guy to bring the Olympics back to life. It's a French guy named Pierre de Coubertin. Now, at a conference on international sports in Paris in June of 1894, Coubertin again raised the idea, and the 79 delegates from 9 countries unanimously approved his proposal. The International Olympic Committee was then formed, and the first games were planned for the 1896 games in Athens, of course, the capital of Greece. I mean, look, folks, this is pretty cool stuff. You'll hear about it, but you may not know about it. But when you look at the history of it, you say, all right, well, now some of this stuff may make a little bit of sense. So I'll carry on with this. Now, in Athens, 280 participants from 13 nations competed in 43 events covering track and field, swimming, gymnastics, cycling, wrestling, weightlifting, fencing, shooting, and tennis. All of the competitors were men, and a few of the entrants were tourists who stumbled upon the games and were allowed to sign up. Now, how cool is that? So maybe these tourists, they were training on their own. They happened to be really good at a particular sport, one of those particular sports. And guess what? Just because you stumbled in, I guess it means you got in. Nonetheless, the original track and field events were held, of course, at a particular stadium, and that would be the Panathinaik Stadium, which was originally built in 330 BC and restored for the Olympic Games in 1896. Now, Americans won 9 of the 12 events. The 1896 Olympics also featured the first marathon competition, which followed the 25-mile route ran by Greek soldiers, of course, who brought news of victory over the Persians from the marathon to Athens back in 490 BC. So there's some real history going on here. In 1924, the marathon was standardized at 26 miles, so you may have heard that before. So people do a half a marathon, which is 13 miles or whatever the hell. And the reality is this is the history. So it goes all the way back to the Greek soldiers running that distance with the victory news over the Persians from Marathon to Athens. So if you ever want to know how far Marathon to Athens is, well, guess what? It's 26 miles, and you want to know why it's called a marathon? Because it's from Marathon. How do you like that? That's a good bit of information. Now, you can bedazzle people at cocktail parties with that information, or you could just save it for another important time talking about the Olympic Games. Nonetheless, appropriately, a Greek won the first marathon at the 1896 Games. How do you like that? His name was Spyridon Lewis. Now, back to the French guy. Pierre de Coubertin became the IOC president, right? The International Olympic Committee president back in 1896 and guided the Olympic Games through its difficult early years when it lacked much popular support and was overshadowed by the World's Fairs. Remember those World's Fairs? A lot of cities were built in those World's Fairs. I mean, look what they did. Some of the cities were incredible. Look what they did in Chicago and in St. Louis and in all these different cities. And what's crazy is when you look at those World Fairs, you say, wow, these incredible buildings were built. They were using technology way back in the day that, well, frankly, nobody had ever really seen. Then suddenly, the buildings and the cities, I wouldn't say they vanished, but many of the buildings conveniently disappeared. I don't even know what that's about, but These are things that happened. All right, so back in 1924, the first truly successful Olympic Games were held in Paris. Well, go figure. It's a French guy, right, as the IOC president, Mr. Coubertin. So the first Winter Olympic Games, though, were also held that year. So imagine that. There was, back in 1924, those Paris Games, they had more than 3,000 athletes, including more than 100 women from 44 nations. The first Winter Olympic Games were also held that year. In 1925, Coubertin retired, and the Olympic Games have come to be regarded as the foremost international sport competition. In 2004, the Summer Olympics returned to Athens with more than 11,000 athletes competing from 202 nations. And a proud moment for the Greeks and exciting one for spectators. The shot put competition was held at the site of the Classical Games of Olympia. Have to let that applause go because, I mean, look, that's an incredible piece of history right there. If you don't identify with that, I don't even know why you're listening to this show today. Frankly, I don't know. But I got to tell you, the Olympics are a really cool thing, and there's a lot more to discuss about the Olympics because, let's face it, they come around every 2 years, right? So they alternate winter, summer, winter, summer. Nonetheless, we're going to be back with more Olympic Games information in just a few minutes here on the Sports Circus.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMTV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you and brought by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. That's right, csncoyotes.com. Check them out, folks. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our radio affiliates, including our friends waking up with us over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM, and that's 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. Right down the road, everybody driving home with us, thanks for joining us on WAUD from Columbus, Georgia, all the way to Montgomery, Alabama, right there out of Auburn. That's right, War Eagle. 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, WAD, that's home of the Atlanta Braves. Up and down the Midwest, out to the West Coast, those driving between sunny Southern California and right here in Las Vegas. Listening in on Highway Country Radio, 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM, home of the Vegas Golden Knights, the Raiders, and the Sports Circus at 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. Up and down the West Coast from Alaska all the way out to our friends in Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the 49ers, Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus everybody watching Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectra, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for tuning in, as well as Hotel TV, as we mentioned, same. And Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Check out Chicago Food Favorites. Talk about your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes, your favorite foods. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Now, in case you just tuned in and you missed the first segment, at the top of the show, there was an announcement for Vacation Buddies giving away a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri, if you know the answer to a simple trivia question. If you're just tuning in right now, we'll go ahead and repeat the question. If you know the answer, call the number I give you right afterwards and claim your 2 free nights in Las Vegas, right here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri. Here's the question. Which of these cities is home to the tallest structure in America? What's the tallest building, and what city is it in? Is it A, New York, B, Chicago, C, Los Angeles? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer to that question, if so, again, call 888-576-5777. Call now. Okay, back to the Olympics. This is kind of interesting stuff. If you're kind of a historian, that's cool. If you want to know a little bit about the history of the Olympic Games, that's very cool. And that's kind of where my position is. And yeah, we go all the way back to 776 BC, even some people said it's even before that too. But again, I mean, look, the participants way back in the day are one thing. The origin, of course, that was every 4 years, held in Greece, and in honor of the Greek god Zeus. And of course, the games were a sacred, peaceful event during which Greek city-states halted conflict. So they stopped fighting and stopped arguing to compete. Now, that's pretty cool. So originally a single foot race called a stadion. They grew into wrestling, boxing, the pentathlon, chariot racing, pretty cool stuff. Participants, let's face it, Greek-born males, and they competed, believe it or not, completely naked. Yes, that's right. The participants, limited to free Greek-born males who competed naked. Now, there's something that probably none of you knew, and frankly, I didn't even know either until I discovered this in my research. But imagine that. And you say, well, Why naked? Well, I guess it takes away unfair advantages. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what that means, but that's what I got. Nonetheless, the games were abolished by Emperor Theodosius in 393 AD to suppress paganism. However, back to those modern games, revived, of course, by Baron Pierre de Coubertin, founded the International Olympic Committee that I mentioned in 1894. The first games were held in 1896 in Athens. Women were allowed to compete in 1900. Now, the Winter Olympics were introduced in 1924, the same year, as I mentioned, the first Summer Games were. And then, of course, the Paralympics, which I didn't mention, they were started in 1960. So, I mean, look, the Olympics evolved from 280 male competitors in 1896 to over 11,000 athletes from 200 plus nations in your recent most games. And of course, think about the big moments, right? Let's go back to 1960s when it was televised. Professional athletes were permitted in 1992. And I got to tell you, folks, I don't like that at all. When we think about the Olympics, we think of amateur athletes. We don't necessarily want to get on board with professional athletes competing. And frankly, look, the greatest moment in my lifetime in the Olympics that I can recall, I mean, there were movies and whatnot made out of it, was the Miracle on Ice, when the U.S. team of a bunch of amateurs beat the Russian pros, and that was in 1980. And in fact, a lot of those Russian players went on to play in the National Hockey League too. But what a great moment, and that was in the semifinals. The U.S. team went on to win gold. But the point is, beating all those pros from Russia, that was the big thing. And then in like the Detroit Red Wings, of course, we think of Detroit and, well, got to tell you folks, just from a hockey standpoint, when you look at what they have accomplished, look, they did a lot, and we'll give it to them. But I got to tell you, not a fan at all.
Detroit sucks! Detroit sucks!
That's played at Chicago Stadium every hockey game because of frankly, folks, that's the largest, or I wouldn't say the largest, that's the most heated rivalry in all of sports. Some people think, well, it's Dodgers, Giants. Some say it's Duke, Carolina. Some say it's Michigan, Ohio State. Some say it's Raiders and Chiefs or whatever. It doesn't matter. But the ugliest rivalry in sports is the Chicago Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings. So going back to their team, in their great years, their most recent great years under Scotty Bowman, and they were loaded with those Russian hockey players. They had the Ov line with Fedorov and Fetisov and who else? What other Ov do they have? They have Kozlov. They had Kozlov and, yeah, it was nuts. Fetisov. They had all kinds of those guys. Anyway, very, 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 very good hockey players. And I got to tell you, folks, when the U.S. team of amateurs, when they beat the Russian players, it was the greatest thing in American sports history, I believe. It really was. And so in 1992, when the professional athletes were permitted to join, it seemed to just really change things. So now you had the dream team and all this. And then you had, I don't know, it was kind of like the dilution of the quality of competition, because you knew, for example, when it came to basketball, the U.S. team was going to basically destroy everybody out there. And when it comes to hockey, well, now you had the professional players from Canada, from the U.S., from Russia, Finland, Sweden, which essentially dominate the National Hockey League. Really, it's the Canadians, then the Americans, then the Russians, then the Swedes and Finns. The point is, if you look at the games and the history, when the professional athletes were allowed to compete, especially in ice hockey, those are the countries that dominate year in and year out. Kind of like the Winter Games, in many cases, you'll have the Norwegians are very, very, very good. And usually the Swiss team is pretty good, but the Norwegian team, they are cut above. When it comes to skating, The Netherlands, for whatever reason, in the Winter Games, boy, they really, really know how to do it. Kind of like when it comes to basketball in the Summer Games. The American team is awfully hard to beat. It's just that kind of a dynamic. But when they allowed professional athletes to come into the Olympic Games, I think, yeah, from a sponsorship standpoint, money, right? It's always about that. And let's face it.
Show me the money!
And I'll show you bigger sponsors, and I'll show you bigger paydays for people and whatnot. We're going to talk about paydays in the next segment. Some of the pay that floats around for some of these people, these guests, these hype people, whatever, it just makes you scratch your head, and you're like, well, how the hell does that even happen in the first place? Since when does the Olympic Games need a hype person? Right. Well, that's something that we'll get into in the next segment, but I've got to tell you, folks, the games have really evolved. I mean, some for the good, some for the not so good, but again, at least it's good competition. When you look at the National Football League, it's an entertainment company. It's like, in my opinion, it's like watching the WWE. I think every game is fixed. I was told by former players every game is fixed, and they can't get in trouble for it because it's an entertainment company, right? That's another discussion. But my point is, the Olympic Games, it's real competition out there, folks, and there's country pride. There is real pride from your lineage on this. All right, back here in a few minutes on the circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
He could go all the way. 95 yards, 38-7 Panthers.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628.
Excellent.
800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven: gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number:
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, or recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, make sure you check out the partners page. Lots of great partners. And in fact, one of our favorites is the legendary rock band and music of Blue Oyster Cult. So if you hit the partners page at thesportscircus.com, you'll see their logo. Click on that logo, and it'll take you right to their tour schedule, and it'll take you also to a place where you can pick up some great merch, some hats, hoodies, t-shirts, whatnot, all kinds of great items from Blue Oyster Cult, legendary rock band, multi-platinum band. Boy, they've been doing it for a long time, and they sound outstanding. If you've never seen them in concert, go check them out. I tell you that because I've seen them several times. Even at the top of the show, it's Buck Dharma from Blue Oyster Cult saying, "Welcome to the Sports Circus." And guess what? Buck's a good guy. He is the lead guitarist for Blue Oyster Cult and also does most of the vocals as well. Got to tell you, folks, good people, good music, very, very, very talented. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. We're over here talking about the Olympics, this, that, and the other. And so I gave you a little bit of history lesson on them and some key moments and whatnot. And there's milestones and so forth. Now, you may not know about the flag. What's the deal with these 5 rings? So you say, well, wait a minute. There are 5 rings to the flag, right? Well, I mean, yeah, there are. Why is there 5 instead of 6? Well, the reality is because they represent 5 inhabited continents, and what they do is they actually combine North and South America as one of the rings. So you've got Africa, the Americas, Asia, Europe, and Oceania. So that is your 5-ring breakdown. Obviously, you'll have North and South America, and excludes Antarctica, which, well, was the prevalent 5-continent view back when Coubertin designed the symbol back in 1912. And the interlocking design signifies unity, and the colors, of course, blue, yellow, black, green, and red, plus the white background incorporates colors from every nation's flag, symbolizing universal participation. And so you look at the historical context of it, you say, all right, well, it kind of makes sense. And the 5-continent model was widely recognized and taught in many countries, particularly those speaking Romance languages, right? From Latin to Italian to Spanish and French and Portuguese, right? Those are your Romance languages. And yes, there was an exclusion of Antarctica because seemingly nobody lives there, yet there's seems to be an ice wall there, and who the hell knows who lives on the other side of that wall. There seems to be all kinds of conflicting stories on all that, but that's another show for another episode for another time. And of course, the symbolism of the rings with the interlocking nature of the rings symbolizes solidarity and union of athletes from these 5 continents. And of course, their equal size and colors chosen, which appear in all national flags, signifies the equal standing of all nations at the games. Nobody's better than anybody else. Everybody's a participant. So you go way back in the early days in the beginning when it was the Greek men competing naked. Yes, that's right. In case you're just tuning in, they competed naked. And so things have certainly come a long ways from that point. But you ask yourself, what is the story with the money and the doling out of it? You say, well, all right, why do they need a hype person? What's that all about? So here, Kelvin Broadus, you know him as Snoop Dogg. This guy reportedly earned around $9 million for his appearance at the 2024 Paris Olympics, based on an alleged $500,000 per day fee from NBC for his role as a commentator, an ambassador, plus expenses for the 18-day event. Are you kidding me? While official figures aren't confirmed, projections for the next Olympics suggest a higher payout, exceeding $8.5 million, giving his ongoing role as Team USA's honorary coach and personality. All right, folks. Now let's think about this for a minute. Let's go do a quick search on this particular human. Let's go to Wikipedia, right? Let's just go there. Real simple stuff. And so this guy, Calvin Broadus Jr. Now, if you don't know anything about this guy, we're just going to go right down to legal issues. This guy somehow is involved with the Olympic Games. And let's go to his criminal background. 1989 to 1990, felony possession of drugs and 3-year prison sentence. Shortly after graduating from high school in 1989, he was arrested for possession of cocaine, and for the following 3 years was frequently in and out of prison. In 1990, he was convicted of a felony possession of drugs and possession for sale. 1993 to 1997, traffic violations, gun possession, and a guilty plea. July 1993, Calvin Broadus Jr. was stopped at a traffic violation and a firearm was found by police during the search of his car. In Feb 1997, he pled guilty to possession of a handgun and was ordered to record 3 public service announcements. Imagine that. Perform 800 hours of community service, pay a $1,000 fine, and serve 3 years probation. Boy, that's a pretty lenient sentence for, oh, that's right, he was a rap star. That's right. Okay, how about this one? Mind you, he's involved with the Olympic Games, 1993 to 1996. Murder trial and acquittal. While recording Doggy Style in August of 1993, Calvin Broadus Jr. was arrested and charged with first-degree murder in connection with the shooting death of a person named Philip Wolder Merriam, a member of a rival gang. All right, so that implies that, well, he was a gang member on top of it, of course, who was actually killed by Calvin Broadus's bodyguard, allegedly, McKinley Lee, also known as Malik. Anyway, Calvin Broadus had been temporarily living in an apartment complex in the Palms area of West LA. That's near the 10 and the 405, in case you don't know, and over in the West LA side. And at the intersection of Vinton and Woodbine, the location of the shooting, both men were charged with murder, and Calvin Broadus Jr. was purportedly driving the vehicle from which the gun was fired. So basically, the getaway car. And sure enough, good old Johnny Cochran, that lawyer, defended them. So both Calvin Broadus Jr. and his bodyguard were acquitted on February 20, 1996. And of course, in February 2024, conveniently, the case was sealed. Folks, this is an honorary captain and hype guy by, NBC Universal or whoever. And I think NBC covers the Olympic Games. And, oh, by the way, yeah, the Olympics as a coach and a hype guy or whatever the hell, right? So let's continue. 1998 to 2010, misdemeanor marijuana charges. 2006, 2007, airport arrest and convictions. April 26, 2006, Calvin Broadus Jr. and members of his entourage were arrested after being turned away from British Airways in a first-class lounge at Heathrow Airport in London. And so he and his party were denied entry into the lounge due to some members flying in economy class. After being escorted outside, the group got into a fight with the police and vandalized a duty-free shop. Oh yeah, that's the model citizen. That's right. That is employed. That's right. As what? An honorary captain for Team USA. That's the guy. That's right. So, in case you're wondering why he is involved with all this, I don't know. How about this? 2015, Sweden arrest for illegal drug possession. 2005, alleged assault of a fan and lawsuit. That's right. It goes on. 2016, a bankruptcy case and compensation loss. And then sexual assault lawsuit. That's right. Regional international banishments. Oh, yeah. 2006, 2010 in the UK. On May 15th, after his arrest on vandalism charges in London, the region's home office decided that Calvin Broadus Jr. would be denied entry to the UK for the foreseeable future, and his British visa was to be denied the following year. That's right. This is the same guy that is a hype guy and a team captain for Team USA. Right? 2007, 2008, Australia, same problem over there, Department of Immigration and so forth. They said, no. We don't want this guy here. Norway, same thing, banned from entering Norway. Folks, this, in my opinion, is not representative of these United States of America. How in the world is he a Team USA first ever honorary coach and employed by NBC on top of it? That is disgusting. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportcircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Excellent.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMTV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out the store at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great items over there, hats, hoodies, T-shirts, sweatpants, sweat coats, and travel mugs and coffee mugs and pillows and blankets and mouse pads, all kinds of cool things with the Clever Sports Circus logo on them. And mention my name, Ringmaster Sal, and get 10% off your first order at the sportscircus.com's store. Check it out, folks. Of course, we get the super applause as a shameless plug, needless to say, for the circus. All right, and welcome back to everybody on radio and TV and streaming, and everybody on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Again, check that out, folks. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. A fun group. Talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, favorite recipes. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right, back with the Olympic Games and money. In the last segment, I spent some time talking about Calvin Broadus Jr. and his dubious history, but you can call him Snoop Dogg, and how in the world he is an honorary captain for anything that is in the legitimate sporting world. I'll never know. It's just my opinion. I don't believe it. I don't like it. It's not a representation of these United States of America. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, in the 2024 games, he even carried the torch for part of it, which is complete lunacy because he's not an athlete. And, well, his criminal background is not a representation of Americans, in my opinion. Nonetheless, sticking with the money, because, of course, they paid him, $9 million or something like that in the last games from NBC. And who knows what they paid the next one and the next one and the next one. But how about this? How about Olympians with a net worth of over $100 million? That's right, there's 60 of them. And let's think about this. Look, the numbers are big. How about Prince Abdul Hakim? You're like, what? Who, what? Yeah, that's right. Prince Abdul Hakim. You say, well, what in the world? Who is that guy? Well, I'll tell you what. He's from Brunei, in case you don't know. And what does he do? Well, his role in the Olympics was the flag bearer. 1996 through 2000, $1 billion. That was reported back in 2011. That was a Vanity Fair thing. How about another one? How about Prince Aga Khan? Prince Aga Khan. That's right. From Iran. $1 billion. Another billionaire. And then we have Andre Agassi. How about Andre Agassi? Of course, Team USA era, 1996. $175 million. The richest, 2019, $175 million. How about from Brazil? Alexandre Pato. 2008 to 2012, $145 million reported in 2019. How about Giannis Antetokounmpo? 2024, $110 million. He's from, they call him the Greek Freak. How about Lance Armstrong from these United States of America? 1992 to 2000, $125 million reported in 2019. How about Alfred von Bohlen und Harbach from Germany? Yeah, that's right. And you say, well, what in the world? What did he compete in? So let's do this. Let's go to Olympic sport. All right, Olympic sport abbreviation. All right, and that was, in fact, it's my name, SAL. Yeah, and that's actually for sailing. So this guy, this remarkably wealthy Brazilian, strike that. No, we're going to go with the German guy. That's right, Alfred von Bohlen und Harbach, a sailor, $1 billion. And this goes back to the early 1960s. That's according to Encyclopedia Britannica way back then. How about Carlos Boozer? That's right, from basketball, 2004 to 2008, $120 million. Chris Bosh, another basketball player, $110 million. See where we're going with this, folks? And so you ask yourself, all right, what about the amateur athletes? So far, you've got a bunch of oil-rich people And you've got some supersonic athletes, of course, that we've mentioned. Here's another one. Kobe Bryant, $350 million at the time that he was competing, right? Cristiano Ronaldo, all right, $450 million. This was back in 2019, right? And he was a soccer player. How about Steph Curry? About the same thing, $400 million, according to Forbes 2025. That's right. And it keeps going on and on. From Great Britain, the luge, Michel de Carvalho. 1972 to 1976, multimillionaire himself, married to Heineken heiress Charlene. How do you like that? $15.9 billion. That's crazy. Oscar de la Hoya, $200 million. And you say, well, wait a minute. What do these guys do and these women do? What are these people doing with all that money? Are they helping anybody? We're going to get to that in a minute if we have time. Novak Djokovic. That's right. Tennis player from Serbia. $130 million. Tim Duncan. We know Tim Duncan. $177 million when reported. Kevin Durant, $170 million back in 2019. God knows what it is today. How about Juan Carlos Principe de España? Another sailing guy. $2.3 billion. The official opener. That's right. Big, big, big money, folks. Mike Evans from Canada on the rowing team. $600 million. That's right. $600 million. Superyachtfan.com, I guess. Roger Federer from Switzerland. Tennis, of course. $400 million. Good old George Foreman with the George Foreman Grill. Competed way back in boxing in 1968. $250 million. And that was back in 2023. Kevin Garnett. Remember him? Another really good basketball player. Competed 2000. $180 million back then. Wayne Gretzky. We all know about Wayne Gretzky. He was also a torch bearer for the Olympic Games. Right? $200 million back then. 1998 to 2010. Prince Grimaldi. How do you like that? $1.4 billion from Monaco. $1.4 billion. And he was an administrator, opening flag bearer, and so forth. Then you have Andreas Helgstrand from Denmark. $200 million. That is a big number. Seriously, folks. When you think about all this money that's floating around, you're wondering, you're like, well, what in the world? How? What? So this guy, obviously, this Andreas Helgstrand, was an equestrian guy. Grant Hill, $180 million when reported. John Hindle, Great Britain, from hockey, $120 million. Dwight Howard, we know about Dwight Howard, $115 million. LeBron James, $440 million. And that was back in, 2019? I mean, who knows what it is today? Michael Jordan, we already know that. Jordan's worth a couple B. And that was reported from Forbes back in, 2019. Anthony Joshua, boxing, $250 million. Anna Kasperzak from Denmark, another sailing individual, equestrian, $1.3 billion. There's another one from Denmark, Agnete Kirk Thingard, another equestrian, $8.7 billion. And that makes you say, all right, now I need to know more. Who in the world is Agnete Kirk Thingard? Well, in case you don't know, somehow she competed in the Olympic Games. That's right. And competed in dressage at the 2016 Games in Rio through 2020. So Thingard had made 103 starts in the FEI recognized event with 7 wins and best World Cup finish at 9th. 2016 World Cup from Gothenburg. And she and her husband, Klaus, ran in Denmark as well. Her father also founded Blue or Stud in Denmark as well. Now, Thingard may be the wealthiest Olympian of all time with an estimated net worth of $8.7 billion. And her wealth came from the Lego company, which makes plastic construction blocks for kids. Now, you know that. So this is the top, the top person for Legos, in case you don't know. That's pretty good information right there. And so you're wondering, well, where's all the money coming from and going to? That's the Lego king or queen. How about Super Mario Lemieux, $150 million. Sugar Ray Leonard, back in 1976, still $120 million. Lennox Lewis, $140 million. Floyd Mayweather, $340 million. I think it's close to $1 billion. But I'm still wondering what in the world Floyd does for the city of Las Vegas, which, frankly, I'm not a fan. My friends train for him. They work as his trainers for his gym is right down the road from my house, and I won't even step foot in there. Rory McIlroy, $360 million. Lionel Messi, $400 million, and that was back in 2019. Rafael Nadal, Spain, tennis, you know him, $125 million. See where we're going with this, folks? These numbers are lunacy. These are the professional athletes, is what I'm after, except for the Lego Queen and the one that married into the Heineken organization. But when you look up and down this list, we have a bunch of, it's largely professional athletes, and they have lots and lots and lots of money. What about those that are amateur athletes? I mean, honestly, folks, that's what it's supposed to be all about in the first place. That's historically what it was. And so why don't we have amateur athletes represent? Because they're representing everybody instead of, well, this is the best we have from the pro side. It just doesn't seem reasonable, in my opinion. But nonetheless, that's just my opinion. And, well, frankly, I'm stuck with that, and so are you in this case. But honestly, the Olympic Games should be for amateur athletes, not for hype people like Kelvin Broadus Jr. with that big criminal background and all this other stuff, from suspected murder to drug dealing to whatever, all kinds of bad stuff. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's show. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Show me the money!
Stop it!
Why isn't this an awkward moment?
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.